What's the first phone that comes to your mind when you hear the word smartphone? Chances are it's an Apple iPhone. And that's because an iPhone is the best smartphone out there. And in this speech, I will explain to you why. In this speech, I will talk about why you should get an iPhone, why I chose to buy an iPhone, why an iPhone is better than its competition, basically Android phones, and I will also talk about some of the things that people say about the iPhone as to why you shouldn't get it, and I'll explain to you why a lot of these things really just don't make any sense at all. Now, to start off with a little bit of history, the Apple iPhone was introduced in 2007 by Apple, and it quickly revolutionized the mobile industry. The Apple iPhone was the first phone to be completely touchscreen, and it didn't require any stylus. After that, a lot of phones that came out were also smartphones, and they basically tried to mimic the iPhone, but none of them could really do a good job. Apple's biggest competition is Android phones, which are also smartphones, and they basically can do anything an iPhone can, but they just can't do it like an iPhone. The biggest reason you should buy an iPhone, or the biggest reason anyone should buy an iPhone, is because it's very simple and easy to use. There's a few buttons on it, obviously the volume button, the power button, and the home button, and all your applications can basically be accessed from your home screen. Nothing is hard to find. As a matter of fact, the iPhone has been so successful that in 2011, Apple sold 72 million iPhones. Now, again, like I said, the biggest reason you should buy an iPhone is because it's easy to use. The problem with a lot of other phones, and something that separates the iPhone from other phones, is that everything is easy. All these other smartphones, they can do everything an iPhone can, but everything is just harder than it really should be. For example, I know a lot of people that use the iPhone just because it's so much easier than other smartphones. The thing with an iPhone is, everything is placed on the home screen. Everything is basically displayed on the home screen. All the icons are on the home screen. You just scroll left and right, and there are small folders. If you click on a folder, there might be some more apps in there, but that's basically it. Nothing is hard to find on an iPhone. Something else that separates an iPhone from other phones is the build quality is so much better. If you're really going to pay like $200 for a smartphone and you're going to be using it for 2 years, give or take a little bit here and there, wouldn't you want it to be built really, really well? Would you rather have a plastic phone or an iPhone which is made out of glass and aluminum, and just by looking at it, you can tell that it's worth the money? Another thing about iPhone is that the screen is not too big or too small. A lot of problems with Android phones is that they're so big. This screen right here on the iPhone is 3.5 inches, and this is the older iPhone. So if you want a bigger screen, you can get the new iPhone, the iPhone 5 or iPhone 5S, which has 4-inch screens. This one's only 3.5, and if you ask me, even this is a big enough screen for a phone. The thing with Android devices is the screens are so big, you're basically holding a tablet when you try to talk on the phone, and you just make yourself look silly. Now, some of the misconceptions you hear about the iPhone. Some of the things you hear is that it's too expensive. Well, you know what they say, you do get what you pay for. But matter of fact, this is actually very wrong. Because an iPhone is worth just as much as any other smartphone that you want that does all the same things. If you want to get an Android Galaxy S4, it's $200 with a 2-year contract. An iPhone 5S, the new iPhone, is also $200 with a 2-year contract. Matter of fact, there are actually Android devices that are even more expensive than the iPhone. For example, the Galaxy Note 3, which is actually $300 and is 6 inches and is basically a tablet. It's not even a phone. Also, another misconception you have about the iPhone is that the battery is not removable. As you can see, there's no way you can access your battery and remove it and put in another one. Now, the biggest reason people say this is a problem is, let's say your battery is running low and you have an extra battery on you. For other devices, you can just take your battery out, put the new one in. But realistically speaking, who actually does that nowadays? Everyone has a car charger. Everyone has a charger with them all the time. There are outlets everywhere. And a matter of fact, there are even iPhone cases that have built-in battery chargers. All you have to do is just flick a little button on the device and it'll charge itself. You don't need to remove the battery, put in a new one, which no one does anyways. So the whole thing that, oh, Apple, it doesn't have a removable battery, you shouldn't get it, it really doesn't make any sense. Another thing is that, oh, it's made out of glass and it's very easy to break. But the same thing can be said for Android devices, which are made out of plastic. Yeah, it's made out of glass, but if you have a good cover on it, like this one, or basically even if you just take care of it and don't just go dropping it around, it'll be fine, just like any other phone. And as you can see, is built so much better than an Android device. And now another thing about an iPhone is it has a fingerprint scanner. The new iPhone, which is the iPhone 5S, which just recently came out, I think in October, has a built-in fingerprint scanner, which is actually located at the home button, which is right over here. You can't really see in this video that well, but right over there. The home button actually has a built-in fingerprint scanner. Why is this a good thing? Because basically with smartphones these days, everyone has so much personal information on their smartphones, so much information that you do not want getting into the wrong hands. And a fingerprint scanner is the best way to protect it. The way it works is the home screen, the home button is also a fingerprint scanner. So if you want to unlock the device, you just take your unique fingerprint, touch the home button, and it will unlock. You can add up to 5 fingerprints. So if you want more than one of your fingerprints, let's say you want a thumb and an index finger, you can do that. If you want to have a family member added onto it too, you can do that. But the basic point of it is safety. An iPhone is really safe. Also, if you ever, let's say you lose your iPhone or it gets stolen, no one will be able to access your iPhone without being able to unlock it. Now you might say they can just reset the iPhone and it'll be like a brand new iPhone and they can be able to use it. No. With Apple, they cannot access your iPhone, even reset it, without your unique iTunes password, which they have no way of getting to. So if your iPhone ever gets lost or stolen, you might not get it back, but at least you know that the person that has it won't be able to access your personal information or use it for themselves. Now my personal story about why I chose the iPhone. My first iPhone that I bought was actually the first iPhone that came out, and I actually bought it off contract and on eBay for over $400. And that's because I was on T-Mobile at the time and I really couldn't get it through T-Mobile because it was only offered through AT&T. Like I said, I spent over $400 on this phone and it was the best phone I've ever had. I remember I absolutely fell in love with it. Everything was so easy to use. It was such a nice phone, better than any phone I've ever used before. And actually after that, for a brief while, I did use Android as well. After my iPhone, I got an Android phone because my contract with T-Mobile, it expired, my 2-year contract, so I was eligible for a new phone. I chose to get an Android just because it was covered with T-Mobile. It'd actually be cheaper for me than to get a new iPhone. And I thought there's a lot of hype about Android, let me give it a try. And I'll be the first one to tell you that was probably one of the worst decisions of my life. At first when I got the phone, it was great. You know, it was just like an iPhone. It worked perfectly fine and I was like, oh, this isn't that bad to begin with. But after about using it for a few months, it really started to slow down. It was so laggy. It would crash all the time. There were really no updates for it and I was basically stuck with this old phone for 2 years, which didn't even work by the time my contract expired. The thing with iPhone is that there's always updates, so you can always get a new phone, and it's very easy to do those updates too. You get a notification on your home screen of your phone, you just click update, and if you have a Wi-Fi connection, you don't even have to connect the phone to your computer. It'll do it over the air. Another thing about the iPhone that makes it better is basically it's very easy to sync your music to it. Let's say you have music on your computer, all you do is put your music into iTunes, you hook your computer up, it'll automatically transfer all your music, it'll save all your contacts, everything will be backed up onto your computer. So let's say you get a new phone or something happens, you want to restore it, you just plug it back into your computer and everything will be synced. Matter of fact, you can also do it over Wi-Fi now. So you can actually sync your phone with your computer or any computer over Wi-Fi. Now, I have a quote here which is actually from Mail Online. It's a website online about phones. And it says that 91% of iPhone users will actually buy an iPhone as their next phone. This compared to 76% of Android users. Now, 91% of users will buy an iPhone again. That actually tells you that once you go to an iPhone, you really don't go back. And another quote from the same website is by Mark Prigg, who's a tech journalist for Mail Online, and he says that the iPhone 5S, which is the new iPhone that I was talking about with the 4-inch screen and the fingerprint scanner, he says that it is the best smartphone ever made, and that he believes that the fingerprint sensor on it used to unlock the phone will change how we use smartphones, which is so true, because the fingerprint scanner also works with credit cards and your personal information. So let's say you want to pay for something on your phone, let's say you want to access your iTunes store, it all uses your fingerprints. So it's a very, very safe way to do it. So in conclusion, this is why you should get an iPhone and not even think twice about it. It is so much better than any other phone out there. It's so much better than its competition of Galaxy. The build quality is so much better. The price is basically the same. The screen size isn't overly big, so everyone basically can use it. And the beauty of an iPhone is you can use it with one hand. Even though I have big hands, anyone can use an iPhone with one hand. With a lot of Android devices, you got to use both hands, which can be a hassle at times. Another reason you should get an iPhone is that it's long lasting. And if you're really going to be using a phone for 2 years, obviously you want it to last those 2 years. So in conclusion, go out there, get an iPhone, get rid of your old phone, and once you use an iPhone, I can guarantee you that you will not go back to any other smartphone, because an iPhone is just simply the best smartphone out there. It's easy to use, it's better looking, and you'll love it. Thank you.